So hello there, Rick, Betsy, Carl, future students that are trying to write a play and put it on as playwright. Uh, I made myself a list of some things I want to cover. Um, Things that I think are important. Uh, as a playwright, I wrote a play as my senior directing sim. Hopefully, you're looking at it and going away from something. I don't really know what to tell you, but I just figured these were some key parts that I thought were important. Confidence is the first thing. You have to have confidence in yourself. I have a lack of confidence in myself. Uh, I constantly think that something's always better than me, other people always better than me, some things like that. I actually have a problem with that. I actually don't think I talk really well, and Rick, Carl, and Betsy think opposite, which is why I'm making this video uh, instead of writing a paper, which I originally was going to do. I decided to take them up on their idea of me actually being an intelligent speaker. uh, Confidence is key. I mean, you're putting your ideas on a piece of paper. You're writing out a play on a character's experiences, maybe stories of your actual life or life, uh, something you've seen that you think is funny, something you've done that is kind of funny, or something that's happened to you that's very serious. No matter what, I feel like you have to be confident in what you do. Another thing I wrote about is chickening out, or thought about was chickening out. Uh, this came up in my capstone interview or meeting, I guess, what we call a capstone meeting. Uh, I chickened out. Uh, I just didn't have confidence in me. I was so afraid that people wouldn't see what I actually wanted them to see. So instead of being an adult and putting their focus on, oh, how could I get them to see the seriousness of this, I took it as a comedy and then very jokingly walk across. And that was a struggle I did while, because I wrote and directed it. That's a struggle I had as a writer, wanting it to be a kind of serious play, and as a director, not having enough confidence in myself as a director to want it to be funny. I feel like I have to entertain people. Entertainment can happen in many ways, not just with laughter. It's a great thing that happens, but it's not necessarily laughter. Uh, Other authors, definitely look up other authors. Uh, I really wish that I had looked up more authors. I really do. I know Rick and Carl and Betsy kept suggesting that I look up the playwrights, and there was a few I did. I looked at Carol Church. I can't remember her name, but she was the person who wrote Cloud Nine. Looked up a play, uh, Mine, or something like that. Rick has it. It was really good play. I just loved it. It was incredible. I remember reading it and thinking there wasn't a lot of detail about the characters. It was just person one, person two, kind of way that it was written. But a lot of it was the way that you saw it as a director, so you could put your own spin on that. And I kind of didn't do that. Another author I looked at, obviously, because this was 2014, so it's the year of Shakespeare here in the theater department. I looked at a lot of Shakespeare, reading the canon, all of his plays in next class. And that's another thing I think that kind of affected my confidence, is that I knew no matter what I would be Shakespeare. I feel like I tried to compare myself to him and other few other playwrights that I did look at, and I shouldn't have. I should have not worried about what other people were doing. I should have been more focused on what I was doing. So if you're freaking out, you know, I understand. You know, I freaked out pretty hardcorely too. So if you're freaking out, just relax. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Stay focused on what you're doing. Stay focused on your ideas and your passion to push this play across. Another thing, stories. We were talking, Carl. Don't mention a story. There was something in New York. I don't remember every detail, but there was something really crazy happening in New York, and he saw it, and he was like, "Oh, only in New York," kind of thing. But he remembers it so much because a guy walked by, and it was like, "Oh, I lived in New York for 10 years, and I've never seen that." Good stories like that. I mean, I know in my play I put in a few kind of things that have happened in me and my best friend Fargo, and like the bro moments, kind of thing. And it's like, bro, come on, bro, like, bro. Um, and talking about trying to convince him to move in with me. That's something that's happened to me. I mean, I did live with Fargo for a while, and there's certain things like that, and it's just weird way of seeing your stories come to life because the story like that can easily progress into something new, and they could easily follow, been like, oh, but what's specific? What's so different about this one guy, and what story could this one guy tell, and how can we tell that on the stage, or even we could follow the other guy. It's like, oh, I haven't seen him in 10 years. Follow him. You can see there's always a story. There's a story in life. Life is a story. You know, it always happens. It's constantly happening. Characters for me. I don't know how you're dealing with characters. Characters for me, they're based off of real people. Uh, the main character was based off of me, and it was probably the best one to write for because I knew what I would say. I knew how I would say it. I could easily put myself in my own shoes, kind of thing. Um, the other male character, Evan, assuming that you've seen my notebook and know my play, Evan was based off of Vargo, and it was really weird. I mean, I've known Vargo for 10 plus, not 10, almost 10 years, 9 years now. I've known Vargo for 9 years. It's really scary to think about, but we've been best friends for 8 years, and it's it's different to try to put yourself in someone else's shoes and think what they would say at that point. But as a playwright, that's something you have to do. You're gonna have to separate yourself and the character. You're gonna have to separate and even kind of separate your world and their world even a bit. And another thing you're gonna have to try to put yourself in their shoes. You're gonna have to try to see things from their perspective. You know, it's just easy. As a guy, that is going to be incredibly hard for you to do as for a female character. Uh, it, it just is. You're not a woman. You don't know what they're thinking, uh, what's going on in their heads. Really, I mean, you may never know. Probably won't ever know, even once you're married. But like something that you're gonna have to work with and try to figure out as a playwright. How do I write for a woman? I tried to for one character, uh, Amy, I think was her final Amy. For her, I tried to do a whole weird way that I saw like a take on 1960s women kind of thing. Yes, stayed in the kitchen, went upstairs, kind of thing, and they agreed. And every once in a while, Amy got to fight back because that's how progression of women kind of thing. That's what I thought I was doing at least. And I don't think anyone else got it really. That's okay because I didn't have enough confidence in myself to try to push that. I think this play could have been great in a 1960s setting instead of a modern day setting. It would have been just the same. I mean, not just the same, of course. It would have been different. It would have been different set, different time period, different music, different costumes, all that. But I think it would have succeeded as well as I think it did this time, or not this time period, but like 2008, 2009, around there time period. But it's something you got to deal with. And what I wanted to, for Chloe was a difference between Amy. I wanted Amy and Chloe, just like, and I tried to do this in a way with Evan and CJ. I wanted them to be polar opposites of each other and be jealous of each other. Like, Evan was with, as we see, and Evan was with CJ. He was a big time rock star. He was playing with him, and turned into his manager eventually in the future kind of thing. That's a story we don't see. Maybe that's a story that I could put up like a sequel or something like that. If I did decide to write a sequel or something. But it's a sign that we don't see. We don't see why Evan isn't in a rock band anymore. Maybe it's because of Elizabeth being born kind of throws him off. And now he's got a kid and can't be behind Preston. He can't travel the world doing millions of shows on Screaming Girls because he's got family and he's got to man up and accept responsibility. But at the same time, CJ also was jealous of Fargo. He didn't want to admit it, kind of thing. And it's going to be something else I could have easily played on a lot more. But he was, he was jealous. You could tell. There are certain things I wanted that you could tell. He secretly he wanted a family. The road was great and all, but at the same time, the road's destroying him. It's his fix. It's his drug. Chloe's not really his addiction. His addiction is being on the road. His addiction is the attention with the ends, the drugs. He's like, oh, she's my addiction, and immediately starts writing a song. That's because his real addiction is the fuel that he gets from her to go perform. That's what I kind of wanted to get across. I know it didn't get across, and like I said, it was lack of confidence, lack of directing on my behalf. Just certain things like that. There's a lot, but they're polar opposites. Amy didn't leave the house. In the play, she never left the house unless Evan was with her and they went to dinner. Chloe constantly left the house. She was at work. Never mentioned Amy having a job. It's because I didn't want her to have a job. I wanted her to be like a stay-at-home mom kind of thing. But Amy, Chloe having a job, being independent, not needing no man, kind of spiel was a great idea for me in my mind, and I thought it would be great counterclockwise, and how everyone wants to be the other. And at the end, before he wakes up from the dream, there's an argument. So then it's like, oh, they're fighting, Chloe or Amy, Evan, and Elizabeth are all in the back fighting kind of thing, and CJ and Chloe are doing their thing, and then he wakes up and you're like, oh, well, how much of that was real? That's what I wanted people to think. How much was real? How much was fake? Is this real life spiel kind of thing? what really happened. It's just this stereotypical thing. Goes out and performs against drugs, passes out and dreams about her. You know, why is he dreaming about her? At least my next question, why? And why? Why is he dreaming about? What makes this girl so special? And I want it in a play to be the fact that it's his first love. You know, and I have a problem with that word, love. And I think now I'm just talking to Benson, Rick, and Carl about my play at this point. And but I have a problem with the word love. It's incredibly, it's overused. It's stupid in a way. It's never used properly. In my eyes, that's the way I see it. Kind of thing. It's just a word that's thrown around. It means nothing. It's meaningless. And in my eyes, he was lovable. Betsy mentioned like why she she felt like she treated him like dirt, like shit, essentially throughout the whole thing. She did in a way, but at the same time, he was still in love with her, and that's what it all came down to. I mean, he was blinded by love, I guess, is something you could say. Maybe that's another song title, Blinded by Love. I don't know. But I mean, and it's hard to explain. It really is when you're thinking about why I chose to be so in love with her and why I wanted it to be that specifically. Uh, it's it's just really hard to explain. Uh, the hardest part. Right? I know I said the hardest part of writing this play was my grammar, and I agree. I I said it very sarcastically, but at the same time, it really is. It's not the hardest part. It's one of the hardest parts. Um, my grammar is horrible. I mean, I've mentioned this before. I'm not going in this whole boat again. Uh, but there are other hard things. I guess I'm talking the future writer again as well. Uh, when it comes to writing, I literally can't think of how many times I sat there in my grandmother's apartment where I live and just sat there and stared at the computer screen. This computer screen which I'm making this movie with. And just sat there dumbfounded and expecting things to happen and nothing did. And it's such a hard thing to do when you just sit there and be like, okay, I know what I want. I know I have an idea. I want, and my original idea was love conquers all kind of thing, which came the first edition of my play, which was really cheesy, really corny. I know I have to start realizing and admitting that I am a cheesy, corny, adorable type person. But that play, it just didn't seem right. It seemed right for the time. And that time, I was all about one idea, love, kind of thing. And as I looked at that play, and certain things progressed as we talked about, me and the relationship that I was involved in broke up, and uh, time progressed, and time went on. I wanted to be darker. I wanted to try to turn it on me. Anyway, that's the one edition I did do where everything was blamed on CJ. It was based off of me. I blame myself for a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm not just some guy. I constantly blame myself for things. I don't really know why, but I do. It's a thing I've always done. It's always been my fault in my mind. Kind of thing. It's just something I've done. So I think that was the hardest part. Trying to not blame myself and move on stop being angry and just write and write what I wanted to write and be an artist in a sense and not trying to make other people happy, just focus on me and trying to make myself happy. I did that as a writer, but as a director I didn't, and that's why I think I failed. I think I failed as a director. And another thing, a student, future student writing a play in, don't direct your friends. You know, directing your friends can be fun, be a great ride. However, no one, that's what that word was. It's not a pun off my play being called no one. No one will really take you seriously. Um, it's just a thing. No one wants to be told what to do by their friend. And a lot of people don't find it easy to be like, okay, he's, you know, we're in rehearsal, he's the director. Or not in rehearsal, he's my friend. People can't separate that. A lot of people can't. And I haven't talked to a few people since my play's been done. I don't really know why. I was kind of approachable. I really was. And that's because I was so afraid to be mean and actually tell the truth and lay down, you know, what I thought was right. Um, and that happened a lot. And I hate it. I hated it. There's so many times I want to tell people, shut up, listen to what we're doing. Stop talking. I'm talking. I mean, there's just so much I could have done. And I just blew it. I really did. Um, there's no better way of answering that than just the fact I blew it. I mean, just, it was, it was, it was interesting. It's a great experience to an extent. I did a go on record saying I enjoyed playwriting a lot more than I did directing. And I don't know if it's the few people, you know, I enjoyed directing. I said that afterwards. And I did. I enjoyed being around people that I care about. I enjoyed being around people that I know. I didn't enjoy not being able to say what I wanted to say because of them taking it the wrong way. I didn't enjoy a few of my actors, who shall remain nameless, going around behind my back and talking badly about my play. Um, for no actual reason. They're just really awkwardly rude. Um, had a hard time dealing with reality and what my play actually was about, which is choosing your dream, you know, going after what you want to do, and your loved ones. They had a hard time dealing with that. A couple of my actors did. They either thought it was about them or they found it was about someone else and they couldn't get over themselves. And that was a big problem I had. It was something I was constantly afraid of. And I was afraid of that from day one all the way, from day one working with the actors all the way um, to closing night with my cast. I was constantly afraid of what might happen, what will happen, kind of thing. I had no idea. You know, something would get said. I mean, a few times every once in a while, someone would show up and be like, "Oh, well, what if I did this?" You know, and I was like, "No, don't do that." And I was always afraid that it might actually happen, and me saying no didn't mean anything to them. Um, there's just certain things like that. So always be careful with your cast, who you cast, and all that. No, structure is a pretty big thing when it comes to writing play structures and plot, all that. Me personally, I wrote a play backwards, and I shouldn't have done that. I've talked, you know, mentioned this in the exit interview when we were talking. I knew how I wanted to play the end, but I didn't know how to get there. And that was the main thing with me. I was so intent on keeping the way I wanted it to end that way that I couldn't change anything. There was no way I could change certain things in my head. You know, I was like, this is how it's going to end, and that's it. And I feel like, in a way, I thought that because it was one of the first things I thought. I knew how I wanted it to end. And in my mind, that was such a such a concrete first thought that it was too good to change. I did change. I changed it a couple times, but in a way, it always stayed the same. It always stayed uh, kind of dream-esque. It was him waking up, or him going into blackness, which essentially would have been him dying, um, or something like that. Him waking up, not getting the girl, him waking up, being confused and going and rocking, him waking up and getting to the girl. There was a few ideas I had, but I knew that I wanted him to be the main center of it, kind of thing. I knew either I wanted it to extremely hurt him, or I wanted it to mentally hurt him. And either so physically hurt him would obviously be the one where they surround him and he dies. So I either wanted him to physically hurt or mentally hurt, kind of thing. And that's something that I should have done. As soon as I started writing, and I got the characters, and my idea of getting characters, I had to see somebody. I had to see them and a picture them. Um, and that's just how I had to do it. I had to write it. I had to picture a guy in jeans and a leather jacket and like a white tee with like a necklace kind of thing. And go through a bunch of different names that I knew in my head until I got Charles, which is actually my middle name. So it's like I was going through, I was like, oh my god, Charles. Charles is great. Going through. Stevenson. That sounds like a nice last name. It sounded very upbeat and proper kind of thing. I mean, Chaz, is such a great nickname for someone before they became a rock star kind of thing, like a nice preppy boy type spiel. And I felt when I casted David as a play, he could give that, like nice, like, oh, I was kind of a preppy boy trying to turn bad. Now I am just a bad boy kind of spiel. Uh, and I did that with all my characters. I had to see them. I had to picture them in a way. And that's just how I did it and what I did. Um, Going on off the structure, first thing I should write was the introduction. I should I mean, what I did do is wrote out a plot. And I said I knew how I wanted it to end, so that was what I knew. I wrote out the main idea of what was going to happen. He goes to sleep. Something happens. He wakes up. Boom. Got my spiel. After a while, it progressed into my play. It didn't really change any. It didn't change the ending, really. The original idea. I should have. I really should have. I should have tried to see if there was something more I could have got out of it, but I didn't. And except there was just a lack of confidence in a way where I was just so eager and so focused on how to end it, how to get it to that ending. I didn't want to change anything. And it's not only like, lack of confidence, it's arrogance, it's stupidity, and stubbornness. It's also kind of what I had there. um, Going off of more, I, if you're writing a play, I wish you luck. That was the best thing I think that I did. I didn't really have a deadline. That probably one of my favorite things about it is I didn't have a deadline. I had a deadline technically, but I didn't. In my mind, I knew I didn't, but I gave myself one. And I gave myself a deadline. I tried to get it done. I wanted to do this kind of thing, and I had it so down in my head that this is what was going to happen. This is what I wanted. This, and this. Um, but that was all on me. Like, I sat there multiple times just in front of this computer going, I want this to happen. And looking at the keys and like hitting a button and like typing up a sentence and being like, no, that doesn't sound right. No one would say that in their right minds. Uh, I spent countless just empty days thinking that, doing that. Seeing, seeing that, and after a while, I was just kind of like, no, I'm doing this. I sat down, I started thinking, I knew what I wanted, and I got it. And I got my first edition of my play. So, that'll happen. You too, maybe you've already wrote it. So maybe I'm gonna try to convince you to write a new version of it. See what you can and can't change. See what you can make different. Who knows? I'm not in charge. You are. You're the playwright. You're the artist. You're the one making the magic. It's for Rick and Betsy Call. I don't want you guys thinking that you took me away from playwriting or directing, because you didn't. You guys have helped me so much throughout the past 4 years. I don't know about directing anymore. I don't really feel like I'm not that good at that. I'm not so good at that I should try to keep doing it. Who knows? Maybe one day I will. I mean, I think most directing I'll probably do is directing in the ring, calling spots and stuff like that. As a playwright, though, I really love to continue. Uh, I think this was a great first play as a playwright. And as a playwright, the idea is you write the play, someone else puts it on. And I think it's a lot of pressure that I wouldn't have on my shoulders in a way. I was so afraid, writing a play, directing a play, what people would think, because not only are they seeing, from the directing point of view, it's like, oh, opening night, it's no longer mine, it's theirs now. That's how you usually think of when it comes to directing. But I think what I would have done, or because I wrote it, it put more pressure on me and made me go, yeah, it's not my show, it's theirs now, but it's still my words. It's still me sitting there watching something that literally took me 9 months to do, to be a baby, in childbirth. It's a lot less painful, I think, than childbirth in a way. But yeah, we never know. But it's something that took me 9 months to do. It took me words, just so much time, and it's them doing it, but at the same time, it's me. And maybe that's because it was so based off of the main characters, based off of some things like that. I'm not really sure, but I think that might have had a little bit more to do with it. And yeah, well, I want to thank you all for watching my video. If you're watching it, if not, I understand. It's perfectly fine. Best of luck in all your future endeavors.